everybody, and thank you for joining us tonight. Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Cyprus, Minister for the European Neighbourhood and the Americas, Presidential Commissioner of the Republic of Cyprus, Chairman and Officers of the Cyprus APPG, my Lords, Honourable and Right Members of Parliament, my good friend the High Commissioner of the Republic of Cyprus to the UK, dear friends and colleagues. On behalf of the National Federation of Cypriots in the UK, I'd like to welcome you to this evening's event and to thank you for joining us. Before the pandemic, this annual event was a special opportunity to bring together our UK Cypriot diaspora and its elected representatives in one room to reaffirm our joint commitment to a reunited Cyprus and to the end of Turkey's now 47-year occupation. Like last year, the ongoing pandemic means that we can't be physically together. However, I'm delighted to see that so many in the community are following the event online and via community radio. Tomorrow marks 47 years since Turkey's illegal invasion and continued occupation of the northern third of the Republic of Cyprus. And these 47 years have been long, dark, and painful years for our diaspora, many of whom are refugees and are desperate to return to their family homes. Despite the sadness of this anniversary, our hope for a reunited island never dwindles, and we believe that a Cyprus where Cypriots can live and prosper together is both attainable and viable. Unfortunately, amidst the immense challenges that the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic has presented, Cyprus has also had to deal with an increasingly intransigent, reckless, and provocative Turkey. This year has seen President Erdogan of Turkey and Turkish Cypriot leader Ersin Tatar repeatedly and openly call for Cyprus to be permanently partitioned, including at the recent informal meeting on Cyprus in Geneva earlier this year.
Yes, we appear to have a gremlin in Christos' system. So as the chairman of the All-Party Parliamentary Group for Cyprus, Your Excellencies, ladies, gentlemen, can I thank you all for joining us this evening. A particularly warm welcome to all of those who are joining by YouTube to hear what the Foreign Minister and our own Minister have to say. I'm delighted, obviously, that Foreign Minister Christodoulides and Minister Wendy Moulton have found the time to be with us. And of course, I'm equally delighted that my old friend, the High Commissioner, is with us this evening as well, and so many parliamentary colleagues and stalwart supporters of the Cypriot cause. It's 47 years tomorrow since I was sitting in a BBC newsroom in Broadcasting House in Portland Place, listening as the teleprinter went berserk and the reports started to come in about the Turkish invasion of Cyprus. I think it is to our shame nationally that we as a country did not intervene immediately. It's easy to be wise after the event, but had Harold Wilson's government decided to take the initiative and to take immediate action to use the resources that we had on the island, we might not now be where we are today. And in fact, of course, not only did nothing happen, but it got worse because while the Turkish invasion had halted, realizing that there's nothing going to happen, they then moved forward and took more land than might otherwise have been the case. But we are where we are. That is water under the bridge, in one sense. The omens that we see at the moment are not exactly auspicious. The manner in which Mr. Erdogan is behaving towards Cyprus is wholly unacceptable in international terms and in international law. The occupation and the now release of Varosha is a step backwards, in our view. The peace talks inevitably are floundering because of the intransigence of Turkey. And let's be clear, it's Turkey and not the Turkish Cypriots that are responsible for this. And I'd like to be able to offer a degree of optimism. But we always live in hope. And the optimism that I can offer you is that the members of the All-Party Parliamentary Group for Cyprus in the United Kingdom whatever our politics on both sides of all sides of the political divide in Britain, are as one when it comes to our aspirations for the future of your island. If I was being very bold, I'd say my island, because I'm proud to be an honorary citizen of Morphu. So our island. But I know that we will stand firm behind you and alongside you until a resolution to this issue is reached. My old friend Robin used to say, when he was the chairman of the group, I would look forward to the day when we shall be able to use the word Cyprus without having to add the word problem. We all look forward to that day. So without further ado, can I welcome Foreign Minister Christodoulides and ask you, sir, if you'd be kind enough to address us. Thank you very much indeed.
Good evening, Roger. Good evening, Wendy. Good evening to all. Thank you all for your participation and for your continued support and interest in Cyprus. Allow me first of all to express once again my sincere appreciation to the organizers. Thank you, Christos. I hope at least you can listen to us for your work as president of the National Federation of Cypriots and for organizing this meeting. And of course, our High Commissioner, Mr. Andreas Kagouris, who is with us tonight. The work done in keeping Westminster and the British public informed on our efforts to reunify Cyprus and on the important, very important, I would say, crucial role the UK can play, both given its special relationship with Cyprus as a guarantor power, but also as a permanent member of the UN Security Council, and as a country with very close ties to Turkey, is of utmost importance. The timing of today's discussion is timely and very relevant, given that the Turkish president, Mr. Erdogan, is currently on an illegal visit in the occupied areas of the Republic of Cyprus to commemorate, in his usual, unfortunately, provocative manner, the anniversary of the Turkish invasion of Cyprus with the promise of announcing surprises to the world. This is a phrase that he used. In mid-May, we had the opportunity to discuss the state of play in the efforts to resume negotiations following the 5+1 informal meeting in Geneva. As you know, much to our disappointment, the meeting in Geneva did not yield to the desirable outcome, namely the resumption of negotiations on the agreed basis of bizonal, bicommunal federation, from where the last process was suspended in Crans-Montana 2017, in accordance with all UN Security Council relevant resolutions. As I informed the group in May, this was due to the Turkish side's unacceptable demands and arbitrary preconditions that clearly contravene the UN Security Council resolutions, namely that the Security Council, upon initiative of the UN Secretary General, adopts a resolution calling for the equal international status and sovereign equality of the two sides to be recognized, and that what they call as the two states in Cyprus recognize each other in the context of any agreement. These preposterous parameters, along with a number of others, were set as preconditions for arriving to a two-state solution. As you understand, essentially the Turkish side demanded from the UN Secretary General to contravene all UN Security Council resolutions and to formalize and rubber stamp the results of the Turkish occupation in Cyprus. Faced with these circumstances, the UN Secretary General proposed to proceed by appointing once again, as it was the case until Crans-Montana, a UN special representative, but again the Turkish side rejected this proposal. So the only option remaining for the UN Secretary General was to announce that a new meeting will be convened in the near future, again with the objective to move in the direction of reaching common ground to allow for formal negotiations to resume. Since April, since then, Ms. Lut has continued her efforts with all sides, but is faced with a persistence by the Turkish side to the position expressed during the meeting in Geneva, that, as I mentioned, clearly fall outside the mandate of the UN Security Council, UN Secretary General, who is bound by the UN Security Council resolutions. During today's address to the so-called parliament in the occupied areas of the Republic of Cyprus 2 hours ago, the Turkish president repeated the position of on abandoning the agreed basis for a settlement, as outlined in the Security Council resolution, for a bizonal bicommunal federation, referred to as two-state solution and sovereign equality. Hand in hand with this position are Erdogan's effort to create a new fait accompli on the territory of the Republic of Cyprus in the fenced area of Varosha. All of you know very well the said area, with the aim of changing the status of Varosha, once again contrary to the relevant Security Council resolutions. The international community, the permanent and non-permanent members of the Security Council, the European Union, the P5, the UK government, I have to mention this, Wendy, send a clear message to Turkey to refrain from such actions in Varosha, which will be lethal, I will say, to the efforts to resume negotiations for a comprehensive settlement. So what is important is for this clear message to continue to be sent by all. And in this regard, the UK government has a special role to play. We expect to see what Mr. Erdogan will announce tomorrow, which is the day that they will celebrate the anniversary of the Turkish invasion. Should Mr. Erdogan proceed with announcements that mean change in the status of Varosha, the international community must respond in a decisive manner, the UN Security Council, of course, and the European Union, upholding in this way in concluding, I wish to underline once again the crucial role, very, very crucial role that the UK has with regards to the Cyprus issue and on Varosha as a result of the special relationship with Cyprus, the result that the UK is a pen holder of the UN Security Council resolution, its status as a guarantor power in Cyprus, as a permanent member of the Security Council, and as a country with close ties with Turkey. The message we convey to the British government at all levels, and I'm very glad that Wendy is with us tonight, is that the UK needs to convey a clear and equivocal message to Turkey that there can be no discussion of Turkey's preposterous position on the form of the solution of the Cyprus problem, that there is no room or appetite in London for any kind of constructive ambiguity that is intended to conceal a solution that is confederal in substance or a two-state solution in substance to appear on the outside as a bizonal bicommunal federation. The UK, as a UN Security Council permanent member, must uphold with all means the resolutions and their respect, both on Cyprus, on the Cyprus issue, but also on Varosha. I will finish with another parameter that I consider is highly important, and it touches directly on the UK's own interests, which are tangible in Cyprus. All of us, we know this very, very well, and which are best served by a solution within the agreed framework of the bizonal bicommunal federation. You can understand that any kind of solution outside BBF will open Pandora's box. And needless to say, if the solution does not secure the continuity of the Republic of Cyprus, the UK's interest in Cyprus will also be negatively affected. And I'm sure Wendy knows much better than myself how to serve the UK's interest. on this note, I will close my remarks, and I would like to once more to thank you all for your participation.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Wendy Morton, Minister Morton, has been listening to, of course, everything that you have said. And I think I can say with some confidence that I'm quite sure that she'll be able to offer you the reassurance that you need. Wendy, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Roger. I'm not sure where Christos is, but thank you, Christos, as well. I'm sure you're still on the call somewhere, although I can't see. You're back, excellent. So thank you. But also thank you to the APPG for hosting tonight's event. And I'm really grateful for the invitation to speak here with Nikos, His Excellency, Foreign Minister Christodoulidis, and to join my fellow parliamentarians and the Cypriot diaspora community as well. But first of all, I'd like to offer my sympathy and concern for all those affected by the wildfires on Cyprus earlier this month. And I want you to know that the UK will continue to provide support and assistance as is necessary. The past year has been one of continued difficulty in Cyprus, in the UK and around the world, in the face of the ongoing pandemic and the challenges that this has created for all of us. But in spite of the impacts of the pandemic, the UK-Cypriot relationship has gone from strength to strength. This year, both the Foreign Secretary, Dominic Raab, and I have had the pleasure to be hosted by the Cypriot government, and I have to say a rare and very welcome occasion to meet face to face. We don't have many of those these days, but it was a real pleasure to be able to do that. But my visit to Cyprus in April, my first actually as Minister for the European Neighbourhood, served as a warm reminder of the depth of our country's friendship. And it is a friendship that is built on a rich seam of personal, professional, and cultural connections, also shared experiences and history. My visit to the island took place ahead of the informal 5+1 talks, which were the first UN-convened meeting of the parties on settlement since 2017. The Foreign Secretary represented the UK as Cypriot leaders and the three guarantor powers aimed to find common ground to move the settlement process forward. The Foreign Secretary urged all sides to demonstrate flexibility and compromise to find a solution to the Cyprus problem. And though the UN Secretary General concluded that the meeting did not find enough common ground for the resumption of formal negotiations, all parties agreed to further informal talks in the near future, which we warmly welcome. The UK's support for a comprehensive, just and lasting settlement of the Cyprus issue is unwavering. We have been clear that this should be based on the existing parameters of a bizonal, bicommunal federation with political equality. We believe these parameters are broad enough and flexible enough to accommodate the interests of both the Greek Cypriot and Turkish Cypriot communities for the peace and security of a united island. As a guarantor power, P5 member, and firm friend of the Cypriot people, the UK remains committed to support the efforts of the UN Secretary General to reach a Cyprus settlement for the prosperity of Cyprus and the stability of the region. With political will and commitment, and with flexibility and creativity, I'm convinced that it is possible to find the common ground between the two communities. The UK believes that a reunited Cyprus would unlock major economic opportunities in increased trade, investment, and tourism. We believe it would open up the possibility of new energy and economic partnerships in the region too. And a settlement would boost the island's security for a more stable future for everyone. But I want to now turn to the issue of Varosha, because I know there's a great deal of concern about President Erdogan's visit to the north of the island tomorrow. And as the Foreign Secretary said to Nikos, the Foreign Minister Christodoulidis, in his recent call, the UK shares this concern. The UK, alongside the rest of the international community, will be watching events very closely. We have been clear in our conversations with Ankara that they should refrain from actions that could undermine the chances of a settlement. Most recently, I raised this point in my conversation with the Turkish Deputy Foreign Minister during my visit to Turkey last month. The UK actively supports the various Security Council resolutions covering the issue of Russia. In October last year, in response to the opening of the shoreline, the UK called for a UN Security Council session, which concluded with a Security Council presidential statement calling for Turkish actions to cease and be reversed. We are clear, as we have been in the past, that we stand ready to work with Security Council members to ensure the Council responds to actions in Russia in an appropriate manner. It's for all parties to ensure that tensions do not spiral, because that is in no one's interests. And so, Your Excellency, members of Parliament, ladies and gentlemen, I will draw to a close just, but importantly, by reaffirming the UK's friendship with the Republic of Cyprus. Our relationship is strong and our ties run deep. And I look forward to developing our relationship for the benefit of both our countries and for the many Cypriots who call the UK home, and the many Brits who do likewise in Cyprus. Thank you.
So thank you very much indeed. It's a pleasure to have had you with us this evening. I know that your time is scarce, but it's very good to hear your response to the Foreign Minister. Now, if we have got Christos back with us.
We do, sir.
Right, well, if you wish to take over and moderate the rest of it, Christos, you can have the baton and move forward.
Thank you, Sir Roger, and thank you to yourself for kind of taking the baton whilst internet issues were fixed, and both Minister Christodoulidis and Minister Morton for joining the discussion. I will kind of pick up on my remarks, if that's okay. So on behalf of the National Federation of Cypriots, I'd like to welcome you all to belatedly this evening's event. And thank you for joining us. Now, this was always a special occasion to get together in Parliament. Unfortunately, today it's now being done virtually, but it is important to mark the 47th anniversary of Turkey's now occupation and reaffirm our commitment to a reunited Ireland. And those years have been painful for our diaspora, many of whom are refugees and are desperate to return to their homes. But we still retain our desire to see a reunited Cyprus. And we believe that a Cyprus where Cypriots can live and prosper together is attainable and viable. Now, unfortunately, amidst the immense challenges of the pandemic over the last year, Cyprus has had to deal with an intransigent and reckless Turkey, as we've heard from Foreign Minister Christodoulidis. This year has seen President Erdogan and Turkish Cypriot leader Ersin Tatar calling for the island to be permanently partitioned, including at the recent informal meeting in Geneva. The UN Secretary General made it clear that partition is outside his mandate and contrary to UN Security Council resolutions. And as a UK Cypriot diaspora, we are clear that the only way to end the occupation is through reuniting Cyprus as a bizonal, bicommunal federal republic with political equality and a single sovereignty, single international personality, and single citizenship, as defined by the relevant UN Security Council resolutions. Indeed, our diaspora has been making its voice heard loudly recently, and with thousands of people getting in contact with the local MPs. Over 73% of MPs, that's 472 MPs, spanning constituencies from Caithness in the north of Scotland to St Ives in Cornwall, have received letters from their constituents asking them to condemn the ongoing occupation, to oppose Turkey's partition plans, and to stand up for a united Cyprus. And as a guarantor power and an ally of Turkey, Britain has a critical role to play in persuading Turkey to engage constructively on the Cyprus issue and to ensure that Turkey and the Turkish Cypriot leadership table proposals that are within the agreed UN parameters. And alongside these calls for partition, as we've heard, Turkey continues to flagrantly violate UN Security Council resolutions on Varosi. And in October 2020, Turkey illegally opened a small beachfront of Varosi. And as we speak, President Erdogan is currently in the occupied area of Cyprus and has telegraphed his intentions for big announcements tomorrow. UN Security Council Resolution 550, amongst others, makes it clear that control of Varosi should be handed over to the UN so that the lawful residents of Varosi can safely return. Now, if UN Security Council resolutions are to mean anything, there must be meaningful consequences when they're violated. So as a UK Cypriot diaspora, we are looking to global Britain as a guarantor power a P5 Security Council member and a penholder on UN Security Council resolutions for Cyprus, to lead the international community's response to Turkey's illegal actions in Barrow Sea. In closing, I would like to take this opportunity to thank all our parliamentary supporters of Cyprus, the chairman and the officers of the Cyprus APPG, as well as our friends in both houses of parliament. Your actions can and do make a real and lasting change to the lives not only of your constituents and the 300,000 Britons of Cypriot origin, but the fate of an entire population that's asking for nothing more than peace, justice, and the restoration of human rights. Thank you. I would now like to ask Christine Jardine to say a few words on behalf of the Liberal Democrat Party.
Thank you very much, Christos. Can I just say it's an absolute pleasure and an honour to be here this evening. Your Excellency, Minister, ladies and gentlemen. It's astonishing to me. I remember as a child the invasion of Cyprus by Turkey, and to think that tonight is the eve of the 47th anniversary is absolutely astonishing. And I know that for all of you, this must be a very, very difficult time. I have always, partly because of that, and partly because I had a friend at school who left because her dad was going to work in Cyprus, I have always felt an affinity with the island, but perhaps most of all, because, and I've said this before, Cyprus and I are exactly the same age. Now, I don't mean the island, I do mean the Republic of Cyprus. And I was looking forward probably more than most people last year to the 60th anniversary, but it wasn't to be with COVID-19. But I feel that at the moment we are at a crucial point in Cyprus's history. So I shall get straight to the point of the evening. As Liberal Democrats, we believe firmly that we would like to see both communities reach agreement on the reunification of Cyprus. And we believe that the international recommended model of a bizonal, bi-communal federation with political equality, with a federal government, with a single international sovereignty and citizenship is not just the best way to achieve this, but really the only way to achieve this. Any solution must be in line with the UN Security Council resolutions and high-level agreements. It must respect the rule of law and the fundamental rights of Cypriots. To achieve that with a peaceful process and outcome, we believe that positive engagement should be the first step towards mutually accepted agreements on the security needs of the communities. Young people are, as in every country in the world, the future. It's important, therefore, to bring them together, to have joint sporting and cultural events, that they can look forward to shared wealth, a shared future. That will be crucial to Cyprus's future. It's 3 years now since the UN Secretary General, Antonio Guterres, said that the lack of resolution on the Cyprus issue is not sustainable. And he called on leaders to mobilise the creativity and commitment to help their communities understand and support the aim of a durable solution. He was right then, and he is right now. That solution, a peaceful solution, is in the interests of all Cypriots. It will open up their futures and provide opportunities for personal and economic growth. In the interests of justice and reconciliation, the UN Technical Committee should continue. And any future settlement of property rights should ensure that legitimate claims are recognised without causing further injustice. As Liberal Democrats, we would back and believe fully that the natural resources in Cypriot territorial waters have the potential to be a catalyst for that settlement I've talked about, that we've all talked about, that bi-zonal, bi-community settlement. Cyprus must be shared. And the future for Cyprus should be strong. It should be good, it should be bright. And I believe that all politicians and all parties in the United Kingdom want to see that. And we want to do whatever we can to support the people of Cyprus in achieving that goal.
Christine, thank you very much for your remarks. I'd now like to ask Fabian Hamilton, the Shadow Peace and Disarmament Minister, for his remarks.
Thank you very much indeed, Christos. And As you know, I've only just made it. My train was delayed by 40 minutes, which was a bit annoying. Good evening, everybody. It is a real pleasure to be with you tonight and to see my good friend, Nikos Christodoulidis, Andreas, our wonderful High Commissioner, Christos, yourself, and of course, all our parliamentary colleagues who are here tonight, and especially, of course, Minister Wendy Morton. This is an issue on which we work together, irrespective of party divisions, because as Christine Jardine just said, this is something that unites, I think, all British parliamentarians. We want to see Cyprus reunited. We want to see a bizonal, bicommunal federation. That is the only future. And then we can step back as a guarantor power. That is Labour's policy, certainly. Ladies and gentlemen, 47 years ago, tomorrow, we all remember that date. It's engraved upon our hearts. Anybody who has a strong sense of Cyprus being Cypriot or being in love with Cyprus, as so many of us are, will never forget that date. Christine, you said you were a child. Well, I'm afraid I was just retaking a couple of A-levels. And my classmates comprised mainly of Cypriots. And they all went back to Nicosia that night. They all went back to Nicosia at the beginning of the summer holidays. And then on the 20th, we know what happened. And my friend Nick Loizu was killed by a Turkish tank in the center of Nicosia, something that affected the whole family. And of course, all of us who knew him and loved him. It's a long time ago, but these things are engraved on your heart and you never forget them. So tonight, I'm very pleased to be speaking to you all. And I understand that President Erdogan of Turkey is apparently going to make an important announcement on the issue of Varosha this evening. Well, we'll have to wait and see what that is. But I hope and pray that he doesn't break the United Nations Security Council resolutions, but we can only cross our fingers. We also, of course, have to remember the significance of tomorrow's anniversary and the provocative news that anything in Varosha may have on both the Greek and the Turkish Cypriot communities. And I won't try to preempt any announcement that President Erdogan may make this evening, but I will lay out the UK Labour Party's long-standing policy and why we've chosen to remain in favour of a bizonal, bicommunal federal political settlement. We think that the people of Cyprus need and deserve a solution to this historic stalemate, which benefits nobody in its current guise. A united Cyprus, based on the existing UN framework and resolutions, we believe is absolutely vital for the prosperity and security of the island as a whole and all its residents. But this cannot be achieved unless Turkey commits to de-escalating tensions by following all UN Security Council resolutions, not just on Varosha, but removing all Turkish military presence from the island, and dials down the rhetoric on a two-state solution, which the UN and the EU have been clear they would never accept. It is a non-starter. Now, I'm delighted, of course, to see, as I said, Wendy Morton, the minister here, on behalf of the UK government. I know she's committed to the security of Cyprus, as she said in her speech, and acknowledges the part that her government must play to resolve this frozen conflict that could, I hope not, turn hot at any moment. As a guarantor power, the UK has a huge role to play in securing a political settlement. Our influence with Turkey and the region as a whole makes it even more vital that we make clear our support for a bizonal, bicommunal federal political settlement, but also to ensure that international law is upheld throughout any negotiations that may take place between both communities in the future, and not to support any political settlement that undermines the sovereignty of the Republic of Cyprus. Sadly, as we know, the talks in April came to nothing. But as we mark that dark anniversary tomorrow, with an apparent decision on Varosha imminent, it's more important than ever before that the UK sticks to its long-standing obligations to the people of Cyprus and works closely with the Republic to ensure both sides can come to a lasting and meaningful political settlement, which is in the interests of regional stability. 47 years on, the stakes could not be higher. And finally, Mr. Chairman, let me just reaffirm my own personal commitment. I'm delighted that the Shadow Foreign Secretary, Lisa Nandy, has asked me to continue the work I've been doing for quite a few years now for the Labour Party on Cyprus. It is an island that I love, as we all do, an island we want to see once again reunited. And let's never, ever give up until that is achieved. Thank you for listening tonight.
Thank you very much, Fabian, for your remarks. Next, I'd like to ask Alan Smith, the SNP Foreign Affairs spokesman, to say a few words.
Christos, thanks so much, and thank you to our guests. It's nice to see so many familiar faces on the call. As the Scottish National Party Foreign Affairs spokesperson, I don't believe in pretending to have differences where we don't. And I have to say the Scottish National Party's position on Cyprus is broadly the same as everybody else's. We start with international law, that this is a frozen conflict which has seen decades of hurt and injustice, and it needs to be unfrozen and resolved. And we likewise support very strongly the bicommunal, bizonal confederal solution, which has been proposed. And we were very disappointed when the talks recently didn't come to much. I was previously a member of the Foreign Affairs Committee of the European Parliament, so was tangentially involved in the 2017 talks. And likewise, we were disappointed when the support just wasn't there. So sadly, I've got all of that said and all of that agreed. I've got more questions than answers, and I'd be really keen to hear from our guests, what could we be doing that we're not doing? There's a remarkable degree of cross-party consensus across the British parties. When we don't do that on everything, I have to say, but there is on Cyprus. What would you like to see from us, particularly if we're expecting a potentially inflammatory announcement about Varosha? Well, I'm very supportive of consequences, but what consequences would you like to see? What would we do that would actually help that discussion? And in terms of giving impetus to further talks, would you foresee more of a role for the European Union as an honest broker in those talks, given that previous efforts haven't quite gone where we wanted to? And what else could we be doing that we're not doing right now? Because there is a remarkable degree of cross-party support for it. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Alan. Next up, I'd like to ask Theresa Villiers, the vice chair of the All-Party Parliamentary Group, and I think one of our longest-serving friends, both in the European Parliament and the British Parliament. So, Theresa, over to you.
Thank you for inviting me to take part in today's important online event, Christos, and thank you for organising things. I apologise in advance if there are technical hitches with my slightly wobbly broadband connection. It's a great honour for me to be able to share a virtual platform with so many of my parliamentary colleagues, and of course with Europe Minister Wendy Morton and Foreign Minister Christodoulidis. It was back in 1998 that I first began to understand the grave injustice which occurred in Cyprus 47 years ago. As a newly selected candidate for the European elections, I was invited to join Conservative Friends of Cyprus. I soon learned much from new friends such as Ian Twin, Tony Yerolemu, Haris Sophocleidis, Andreas Papavropidis, Andreas Tambourides, and Doris Partasides on why reunification of Cyprus is so crucially important. And of course, it's a matter of sadness that the negotiated settlement for which everyone has campaigned for so long continues to elude us some 2 decades after I had those initial conversations with new friends. As we've heard again this evening, the Turkish invasion led to extensive violation of human rights. So many were forced from their homes and have never been allowed to return. And of course, so many people remain unaccounted for to this day. I want to express my sympathy and support for anyone logged into this call who has suffered directly as a result of the terrible events of 1974. I believe there is a case to introduce an annual 2-minute silence for Cyprus to remember the lives lost during that tragedy. And as we contemplate the somber anniversary tomorrow, I take this opportunity to reiterate that for a solution to be viable, balanced and fair, it must be consistent with UN resolutions. So it must, as many others have said this evening, reflect the internationally accepted model of a bizonal, bicommunal federal state with a single sovereignty, a single international personality and a single citizenship. I welcome the UK government's continued commitment to this principle, repeated in answers to my recent parliamentary questions. I also want Wendy and her colleagues in the Foreign Office to call for a recommencement of negotiations between the two sides at the point at which they were suspended at Crans-Montana. And I believe that it's time for our Foreign Secretary to advocate publicly for an end to third country guarantees in future settlement. Such guarantees, with their implications for military intervention, are not appropriate for a modern European democracy. And this is a point which I've made on the floor of the House of Commons. Equally unacceptable are Turkish incursions in the Cyprus exclusive economic zone, and Mr. Erdogan's provocative decision to reopen the beach at Varosha. Flatly contrary to UN Security Council Resolution 550 and others, Ankar's actions in relation to Varosha make a settlement harder to achieve. They should be thoroughly condemned by the whole international community. I am unwavering in my support for Cypriots in their efforts to reunite their island. I pledge that I will continue to work to keep Cyprus on the agenda in Parliament alongside colleagues from all parties. I welcome this opportunity to express once again my solidarity with my British Cypriot constituents in their struggle for freedom, justice, and unity for Cyprus. Thank you.
Thank you, Teresa, for that typically forthright and clear speech. Next up, I'd like to ask Bambos Charalambos, Vice Chair of the All-Party Parliamentary Group and a fellow UK Cypriot, to say a few words. Bambos.
Thank you, Christo. And I can't believe it's been 47 years since the invasion and occupation in 1974. I remember going on the demonstrations as a boy, and it just saddens me greatly that so many years have elapsed, and my hair's now turning grey, and we are no closer to a solution in Cyprus. The first thing I'll say is that we need to support all the efforts towards trying to reach a bizonal, bicommunal settlement. So we need to do whatever we can to support that and make sure that happens. Clearly, Turkey has been provocative. We've seen the actions of Mr. Erdogan in opening Varossi Beach and his actions there are clearly designed to provoke Cyprus. It's clear he has no friends in the region. If you look at the relationship he has with Egypt, with Israel, with Libya, he clearly is running out of friends there. And I think we need to ask the international community to do a lot more to put pressure on Mr. Erdogan so that his actions that he's not allowed to get away with his actions. So I think there are lots of things that we can do to encourage the international community to do more. We need to make sure that any settlement involves having no troops in Cyprus and certainly no guarantors. Guarantors is an archaic sort of a clause in an agreement that's long since passed, and we need to make sure that we do have a free and united Cyprus. So I'll do whatever I can to strive for that. I will support the diaspora, and I work with colleagues to make sure that we do what we can to bring that about and speak up for it in Parliament. We're working together really well as an APPG, and we will do whatever we can to support you. I think I'll leave it there, but thank you, Christoph, for giving me the opportunity. I'm going to have to dash shortly. I have to go back into the chamber for the Borders Bill debate, but thank you for giving me the chance to speak today.
Thank you, Bambos, and thank you for dropping out of the debate and joining us to say a few words tonight. To close out, I'd like to ask the Presidential Commissioner, Fodis Fodou, who's joined us tonight. A couple of people have touched on the issue of missing persons, and one of the issues in his portfolio is the issue of the missing persons. So I'd like to ask the Commissioner to say a few words about that.
Thank you, Christo, and good evening, everybody. Let me first congratulate you, Christos, and Sir Roger, and the officers of the APPNG for Cyprus for this initiative. And thank you for the opportunity to participate. Of course, I would like to thank Minister Morton, Shadow Minister Hamilton, the opposition party spokespersons, as well as our good friends, always good friends, Sir Roger, Teresa, Pambos, and of course, all the Cyprus APPNG members for their clear and united message this evening, that the only possible settlement to end the Turkish occupation is one that is based on the agreed UN Security Council resolutions. I would especially like to thank our friends on the Cyprus All-Party Parliamentary Group for keeping Cyprus high, always high on the British parliamentary agenda. Of course, Christo, I would like to thank our diaspora and to express our collective and deepest gratitude for everything you have been doing all these years in support of Cyprus in the UK and of course worldwide. I think that Minister Christodoulidis presented the latest developments on the Cyprus issue very, very clearly. So tonight, as Christos said, I will concentrate my remarks to the open wound of the tragedy of the missing persons and their families. From humanitarian point of view, I think that the most tragic consequence of the Turkish invasion of Cyprus is the missing persons. This is a tragedy that causes so much pain and agony, I can say, to hundreds of families who are still waiting for nearly half a century to be informed about the fate of their loved ones. Most of mothers and fathers are passing away without having the opportunity to have a funeral for their sons. 47 years since the Turkish invasion, around 800 Greek Cypriots are still missing. It's more than 50% of the official list of our missing persons. Regrettably, progress on this serious problem during the past few years is very, very disappointing, to say the least. And time is the enemy, and time is running out. Despite the efforts of CMP, this is the Bicommunal Committee for Missing Persons, and the continuous support of the government of Cyprus, the number of remains exhumed and identified by DNA falls dramatically year by year. The basic reason for this situation is, of course, the refusal of Turkey to cooperate sincerely and constructively to solve this humanitarian issue, because the missing persons issue is not a political issue. It's clearly a humanitarian issue. And Turkey should show respect to the European institutions, first of all, by implementing the 2001 judgment of the European Court of Human Rights and all resolutions of the Council of Europe, United Nations, European Union, and other international organizations. In this respect, Turkey should provide the Committee of Missing Persons with all information from its military archives concerning burial sites, and inform the committee, of course, of the places of reburial of remains that were purposely removed from the original places of burial. And as you know, as a result of this, only a few skeletal elements are located. And the worst, however, is that the families receive for burial only small parts of skeletal elements of their loved ones, something that, of course, prevents the families from proceeding to a closure. On our part, and I have to stress this, we accept every possible effort so all Turkish Cypriot families are informed about the fate of their loved ones. For us, pain is the same. Either you are a Greek Cypriot or you are a Turkish Cypriot. So I take this opportunity to kindly request you to contribute in whatever way you consider appropriate in the United Kingdom to assist the efforts to solve the tragedy of the missing persons to the sake of the families concerned. And I feel that at this critical juncture, the need for the UK to assume a more active involvement in humanitarian initiatives is very, very urgent than ever before. So closing, I want to clearly state that the correct settlement of the tragedy of the missing persons, dear friends, will not only help to end the suffering of the families, but will also contribute to the prospects of the next generations. This will create conditions of trust and reconciliation, elements that are very, very essential and necessary for what we are discussing tonight, the reunification of our island. Thank you, Christos.
Thank you, Presidential Commissioner. I think we are drawing to a close, but I would like to thank and acknowledge the other parliamentarians who have joined us tonight. Matthew Offord, Mark Jenkinson, Caroline Noakes, who's also a Vice Chair of the APPG, Ferrell Clark, Carol Monaghan, and Steve McCabe too. So thank you all for joining us tonight. Thank you, Minister Christodoulidis, Minister Morton, and Presidential Commissioner. And thank you everyone watching for making the time to mark this tragic anniversary.